They was trying to do their good thing that they were supposed to do while they were there. The challenge that apparently they had been given by their pastor was to pray for the waitress. Can we pray with you? That girl looked at them and went, no. Do you blame her? How are we going to act like the devil and try to tell somebody about Jesus? It don't work. It don't. Christian, go to the next verse for me. I have not hidden your righteousness within my heart. I have declared your faithfulness and your salvation. I have not concealed your loving kindness and your truth from the great assembly. Do not withhold your tender mercies from me, O Lord. Let your loving kindness and your truth continually preserve me. Guys, when we do it right, and we go to the Lord and say, hey, I need your help, guess what? You're going to get it. Verse 12. For innumerable evils have surrounded me, my iniquities have overtaken me, so that I am not able to look up. There are more than the hairs on my head. Therefore, my heart fails me. Then what does he say next? He says, be pleased, O Lord, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. Let them be ashamed and brought to mutual confusion who seek to destroy my life. Let them be driven backward and brought to dishonor who wish me evil. Let them be confounded because of their shame who say to me, ah ha ha. And let all those who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. Let such as love your salvation say continually, the Lord be magnified. But I am poor and needy, yet the Lord thinks upon me. You are my help and my deliverer. Do not delay, O my God. I told you should be helping me preach a little bit. Listen. Quit worrying about what somebody else got to say about you, or what somebody else is going to do to you, or what somebody else is going to... Quit worrying about it. Why don't we worry that much about obeying the Lord? Why don't we worry that much about being in His presence? Why don't we worry that same amount about seeking the glory of God? Now I want you to flip to Exodus. We had to get some understanding before we could get into the meat of this. When you go into into chapter 33 in the book of Exodus, the promise of God's presence is there. And it actually starts at verse 12. But what I want you to do is I want you to drop down to verse 18. And he said, please show me your glory. Now, I want you to flip over to chapter 34, starting in verse 29. And it says, now it was so when Moses came down from Mount Sinai, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in Moses' hand when he came down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him. So when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near. Then Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the rulers in the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the children of Israel came near, and he gave them as commandments all that the Lord had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would take the veil off until he came out. And he would come out and speak to the children of Israel whatever he had been commanded. And whenever the children of Israel saw the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face shone, then Moses would put the veil on his face again until he went in to speak with him. Here's what I need us to understand. See, Moses had been up on the mountain and he had been with God. And God had been talking with him. And he said, God, I'm not satisfied. I want to see your glory. I need you to show me your glory. Now, God knew that his glory, in all of his glory, that Moses would not be able to stand. He would drop dead. He couldn't look upon the face of God. You've heard me talk about this before, and you've probably read this before. But God literally says, all right, listen, I'm going to put you in this hole right here, and I'm going to walk past you. And when I do, I'm going to cover your eyes until I'm past you. And then after I pass you, I will let you look upon the back of me and my feet. But he was able to see the glory of God. God in his fullness. And literally, it changed him. It changed him, church, because chapter 34, when he gets there, all of a sudden, they looking at him and they going, whoa. Moses, your face be looking a little different. Something weird about your face. What's going on? He had literally been in the presence of God to the point where his countenance was different. And because his countenance was different than they had ever seen with anyone else, they were afraid. And Moses literally had to cover his face so that they wouldn't be afraid of what they were seeing, and they could focus on what it was that God was telling them through Moses. But we noticed when he went back into the presence of God, he removed the veil. Why? You know what we do? We put on extra masks and then we go get in his presence. Why? Because we think he ain't going to be able to see us. Go back and read Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah got into God's presence and he said, oh man. Now this is Pastor Jay's Revised Version. What the word actually says is, woe unto me, for I am undone. Here's Pastor Jay's Revised Version. Woe, I see everything wrong with my life right now. His next statement, I am a man of unclean lips. Here's what he's saying, Pastor Jay's Revised Version. I am a garbage sinner. Moses said, I don't want to try to cover anything up. God, I want you to see me for who I am, and I just want more of your glory in my life. You know what we do? Jeff, come play for me. A little dab will do you. A little dab will do you. Let me go to church so I can get into God's presence for a few minutes and I can feel better till I get home and realize ain't nothing about me different than it was when I walked into church. Some people make it all the way to Monday morning. Good job. I'm being sarcastic. Here's the reality of it. Mama, if we don't reach that place where we say, I want nothing but God, then we will never get where he wants us to be. Moses wasn't perfect. He still made mistakes. But you know what? Moses would get into the presence of God and literally unveil who he was before him. I want you to hear me. Are we desperate enough for the glory of God? The life-changing glory of God in our lives? We quick to talk about getting in his presence. But we step in and we step out. And we step in and we step out. We step in and we walk in it for a minute. And then we go, it's more than I can handle. And we get out. See, we're more like the people than we are like Moses. Cover that up! I don't understand. See, the people around you be the same way. If you start getting into God's presence in that way where you're in his glory, where you're seeking his glory, you want to see him. You want your countenance to be different. People around you not going to understand. But what did we read about earlier? When they see what's real about God in us, they will want him. That's what we read in Psalms. So what are we afraid of? We afraid of what somebody else is going to say or think? Church, it's time to get past that. It's time to get desperate to see God's glory revealed. And quit being satisfied with walking in bondage instead of being free. What do you want this morning? You want real freedom? You want freedom from the things that are tormenting you, and freedom to walk in who he is and who you are because of him? See, we can't walk in our own righteousness. We have to only walk in the righteousness of Christ. And when we start to do that on the regular, not when it's convenient, that is when we'll be able to see the glory of the Lord. Don't wait on a church service to find the glory of the Lord in your life. Well, one day the glory's going to fall at Greater Life. I pray it does. I do. I pray that every day. God, send your glory. Let it fall. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know if we're ready. There might be a few people who are ready for it. But are we as a church ready? I'm going to just call us out for a minute. Kayla, can I come over here and look at you? I don't want nobody throwing eye daggers at me while I say this. The truth of the matter is that our desire is for ourselves and not for the Lord. And because our desire is for ourselves and not for the Lord, I don't believe our church is really ready for his glory to be manifest in that way. We want to see great revival break out in this church, but are we willing to move ourselves out of the way and allow God to be the center? And I think sometimes we hit these little pockets, these little moments where we think for just a minute, we get a glimpse of what it's going to look like. Look what God did last Sunday. The amount of people that were healed last Sunday. The amount of people that were delivered last Sunday. The breakthroughs that people were getting in their life last Sunday. Guys, we didn't walk out the doors till like 12, I don't know, I think we closed the service about 12:40. And I actually stopped preaching a little bit after 11, which was a shock. I thought we were getting out early. But you know what? The Lord had something different in mind. But can we seek him like that every day? We need to seek him like that every day. We need to get up in the morning desperate for God. Desperate for more of God. God, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. I need more of you in my life. I need to know that your presence is with me. I am not going to focus on anything that anybody else has to say or what they do or how they act. All I'm going to focus on is my relationship with you. I'm not going to pay attention to the noise anymore, but instead, I'm choosing to be free, to be who you created me to be. When we get that desperate, church, the other day I woke up in the morning. It was Tuesday morning. And in my heart, it was Sunday. I thought I was going to church. And then I realized it was Tuesday and not Sunday. And it was just random, because I'd never had that happen like that before. But you know what I started praying? God, let me wake up every day like that. Every day I want to wake up ready to be with you. And I want to walk with you through the day until I lay my head down at night. I don't want to experience part-time God. I want to experience being in his glory. I want it to operate in my life in such a way that when people look at me, they instantly know there's something different. They don't have to wait for my mouth to open. That literally they will look at me and see that God has his hand on me. And church, that's not just for pastors, that's for all of us. Michelle, one day, when God starts to do that in our lives, you want to know what's going to happen? We're going to walk into places and people are going to recognize us and be like, I mean, I think I know you, but I don't know you. And that's what we need. We need that life-changing. You ain't going to find it with self-doubt. You ain't going to find it in your pity party. Let me just call it like it is. You're not going to find it as long as you are the center of your world. Only God can be your center. Stop buying the lies of the enemy. Stop buying the lies of society. Stop buying the lies of your flesh. I went to the armory this morning to go share with them the word, to provide religious services for them. And part of what I told them was this: take everything you hear and everything that you read, including what comes out of my mouth, and go compare it to this word. And if it doesn't line up, it's not the truth. Father, this morning, my prayer is that we will seek you and find you. That's what your word promises. If we seek you, we will find you. But Lord, let us not seek you for a moment, but let us seek you and find you and hold on to you and walk with you and talk with you. Let us be found faithful in our relationship with you.